Shabbat Shalom. That sounded good, actually. Cain and Abel are two brothers. You know the story. They're the first brothers. Cain was a farmer and Abel was a shepherd. They both made offerings to God. Cain brought some of his harvest and Abel brought the best lambs from his flock. God accepts Abel's offering but rejects Cain's. Next thing you know, Cain kills Abel. Just like that. It's crass, it's blunt, it's super biblical. It's also pretty accurate. No, of course, we don't go around killing people or doing things like that, but Cain reacts with rage to something that affects us all. He reacts to rejection. His offering is rejected, and it stings. We wouldn't do what he did, but we all know how he felt. Rejection. That horrible feeling like you've been punched in the stomach. You swiped right, but the other person swiped left. You took a shot, another player pushed the ball away. You applied for a job, you were denied. You pursued a relationship, you were turned down. You applied to a great college, you were told no thanks. You applied your child to a great preschool, the child was told no thanks. Unless you've evolved into something beyond the rest of us, rejection isn't fleeting, it lingers. Cain is punished both acutely and longitudinally. The soil upon which he and his family are dependent will become difficult to yield. He is to be a, quote, rootless wanderer, which is a pretty stiff punishment for a farmer. All of this because of how hurt, angry, and embarrassed Cain was by being rejected. We live in healthy denial where we tell ourselves rejection is unlikely or impossible, but the truth is, it's not only possible, it's inevitable and demoralizing. What have been the rejections of your life, both large and small? We hate the feeling of rejection and we don't really know what to do with it. It's out there. We like to avoid it, but we can't because it's there, lingering, waiting for us. I'll tell you a story of two other biblical brothers, Nadav and Abihu. Remember them? Less popular? They're the sons of Moses' brother Aaron. They're the children of the one and only high priest, the nephew of Moses and the nephew of Miriam the prophet. It's a powerful family, to say the least, a family full of privilege. Aaron has access to every echelon of elitism there is. He can walk into the Holy of Holies itself, God's sacred chamber, and make offerings directly to God. Or to put it in our own terms, Aaron can pull strings, make phone calls, make donations, do whatever he needs to do to ensure his children's success. He's a power player and a power parent. But nonetheless, the boys are not immune to rejection. These blessed boys from the most blessed family make an offering to God. Torah says, "Now Aaron's sons Nadav and Abihu each took his fire pan, put fire in it, and laid incense on it, and they offered it before the Eternal, this alien fire, which had not been enjoined upon them. And fire came forth from the Eternal and consumed them. Thus they died at the instance of the Eternal, and Aaron was silent." They made an offering to God. They put themselves forward, and not only were they rejected, they were consumed in a pillar of divine flames. It's rejection of biblical proportions. It might be even more unthinkable than the Cain and Abel story. But remember, this is a story. It's prehistorical. It's about the most ancient of ancient times that we know of. So of course it's extreme, but it's also instructive. Here we have the most privileged children being rejected. These boys watched their father make offerings for a long, long time, their entire lives. They know how to do it. So why were they rejected? And of course, the corollary question is, why are we sometimes rejected? I'll give 3 ideas. Option 1, Nadav and Abihu's offering was rejected because, in fact, it just wasn't good enough. The Torah says they offered alien fire. It was something foreign, something for which God did not specifically ask. Whether or not the punishment was too extreme is another matter, but their offering just did not deserve to be accepted. God was just not that into it because it simply wasn't good enough. They didn't follow the rules and the procedures. Those rules aren't just rules for the sake of rules. They're there to help us achieve holiness, to help us commune with God. The rabbis expand on their mistakes, indicating that Nadav and Avihu were arrogant. They didn't listen. They were overly ambitious, eager to take the reins from Moses and Aaron. Not only was their offering subpar, their character was lacking as well. This is one possibility for us. It's harsh, but it can be true, and accepting it can even be helpful. Maybe you just didn't do enough to deserve acceptance, or maybe you just weren't right for that potential partner. Maybe other students just got better grades than you did. Nadav and Avihu weren't good enough, and maybe sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes we are not either. Option 2, Nadav and Avihu were good enough. They did everything they could, and they did a great job. Other places in our tradition insist that they were righteous men, that they were guilty of nothing. But the external circumstances around them were not fair. Life was not fair. We know from our lives that sometimes justice is not just. We've seen this countless times with judicial verdicts that don't go the way we believe they should, or being personally passed over because of nepotism or favoritism. Sometimes you've done everything right, and you're still denied. So what then? The third option is that we don't really know why Nadav and Avihu were rejected. We often don't ever get to know why we were rejected. We can't know, but we can make meaning out of it. Tradition tells this story. Moses came to Aaron and said to him, "Brother Aaron, God told me at Sinai, I am going to sanctify this house. I will sanctify it through a great man." Moses continues, "I always supposed that house would be sanctified either through you or through me. Now it appears that your sons were greater than we, since it was through them that the house was sanctified." And in this assurance, Aaron found comfort. Maybe the outcome won't be what you anticipated. Maybe it will be precisely what you anticipated. But whatever it is, I can assure you there is a meaning behind the rejection, and sometimes that is the task in and of itself. To acknowledge the failures that happen to us, to analyze them, and to resurrect the meaning behind those inevitable rejections. If Aaron can do it, I hope we can too. Shabbat Shalom.